Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Golden Astrologer Podcast. This is Deb McBride, and I am in the beautiful, lovely Escazú, Costa Rica. I am recording this here, and it is Sunday, the 11th of May in the year 2025. And most of the world, I think, celebrates Mother's Day today. But in Costa Rica, we celebrate Mother's Day on August 15th. And I've said this before here. When it's Mother's Day, everything closes down. Not the mall, but shops close. People have off from work. It's a big holiday, and I think that's like the Feast of the Assumption or something, and that's probably why it's Mother's Day. But it's no matter what day of the week it is, it's always August 15th. So it could be a Tuesday, a Sunday, a Thursday. It doesn't matter. Mother's Day is the day it's celebrated on August 15th. So it wasn't really Mother's Day here, although I saw a lot of posts on social media about Mother's Day. And if you're celebrating Mother's Day, well, then happy Mother's Day. What a week it was. What a week it was. It's interesting because remember what I said last week? It was not a week chock full of, Mars-Pluto opposition and, something going into eclipses. And there was none of that. It was a quieter week. There weren't multiple aspects. There wasn't, T-squares with the Sun and Mars and Pluto. None of that, which was intense enough as it was. But this, for me, and maybe it was just me, was chaotic. Every day was chaos. Every day when I was trying to get things accomplished, things fell in my lap, stuff happened, people called me in emergency, they were distressed, there was stuff here, stuff there, problems. Friday, I thought I was going to get a break Friday, and I didn't. Friday afternoon was, Friday morning was fine, but Friday afternoon was like, what? and trying to navigate my appointments and the phone calls and the stuff and so much, happening that I was really surprised at how much chaos was in this week. Now, the reason I said maybe it's me, because the station of Pluto going retrograde was last Sunday the 4th, and you'll remember on the podcast last Sunday the 4th, I talked all about the fact that Pluto was going retrograde. And this is important because, as I said, Pluto's going retrograde and it's staying in Aquarius. It's not going back into Capricorn. And now we are in the first full week of the retrograde. And it'll be retrograde till October 13th. But Pluto's on my sun. Pluto's transiting my sun. And so, maybe it was chaotic for me because of the major feeling of, deep transformation in my life with Pluto sitting on my sun. But this was something really particularly strong this week. Like the waves of activity was chaotic, I thought. And, I will say this, I navigated through it, of course, but I'm not sure anybody else felt the chaos that I felt. There were some people, obviously the people contacting me, they were in chaos because they were contacting me. And there was a lot going on here that just required my attention. And, here's an example. So Thursday, I was finished with my appointments and then I was going into my New Vision meeting. And I had to be here to finish appointments. And then we have a weekly New Vision support call at 5 p.m. But my cleaning lady was here, so I had to wait for my cleaning lady to finish, pay her, and finish my appointment, pay her, and then go, into my meeting. And then I realized that I needed to pay someone in cash on Friday, the messenger that was bringing my medicine, my sleep syrup, and that means I had to go get cash. So I had 20 minutes to go run, get cash, and make it in time for my New Vision meeting, which I was 10 minutes late for, which is fine because I'm not the host. But there was no way I was going to be able to do it on Friday morning, so because I have other things. So I just said, okay, I have to run, go get it now. And that's what I did. I had to, so it was the realization, oh, I have to go get cash. Oh, I didn't know when they were going to be able to do this, so I didn't get cash until they told me they could. So it was that kind of chaos. It was like, now I have to go get cash. Now I have to go get this. Now I didn't get enough cash because I didn't know this was happening today. So I have to go get back and get more cash, and those kinds of things, So it was complicated in that way and chaotic. But this brings up a point I do want to make. Pluto's on my sun. So, it's not quite there yet. It'll go there next year, but it's pretty much there. It's there. It's a shade not there yet. It's refraining, as we say. It refrains from my sun. And a refrenation or refraining means it gets very, very close to the planet in question, usually the one in your chart, and then it backs up. It goes retrograde. So that's a refrenation. And I do want to say this. The reason I start all of my astrological sessions, especially with new clients, and particularly with new clients, not if you've come back to me a bunch of times, I don't have to do this for you, but I start with the sun sign, the moon sign, the ascendant. And always the sun, because everyone knows their sun sign. And, we experience the sun as our life force and vitality. And the moon is our habits and our everyday experience of ourselves. And the ascendant is how we present ourselves to the world. And it may not be in harmony with the sun and the moon. And if that's the case, it's because, maybe those things are a little more secretive or private or whatever, as opposed to the ascendant, which is out there for all to see. There is a reason for this. They are the three most important points in your natal chart. And granted, every day there's a sun, a moon, and the ascendant changes every 2 hours. But for you as a person, your natal chart, the sun, the moon, and the ascendant are the most important things. Yes, there's Venus. Yes, there's, Saturn and Pluto and everybody else, and the south node, the north node. But the important things are the personal planets. And those three, the ascendant, which is a point, and the angles, pretty much the angles, but your personal planets, and those are the most important. Then we get into Mercury and Venus and Mars. They are the most important things that are going to get hit with cycles. So, meaning, yes, of course, the planets are going to cycle, the transits are going to cycle around your chart, everyone's chart. But when we are looking at the deep effects and the profound effects of something hitting us in our astrological charts, we are looking specifically at the personal planets. If Pluto is coming over your sun, like mine, that's what's going on. And you can talk to your client for an hour and a half, 2 hours about Pluto going over their sun, going over their moon, Uranus coming to the ascendant. These things are a big deal, especially with the outer planets, because they come once in a lifetime. And we have to remember that when Neptune goes over your Venus, it's a big deal. It's only going to do this in one shot in your lifetime, right? And Saturn will come over planets, and they'll come over again if you live to your second Saturn return, yes, and it will come over them again a second time and all. But you want to pay attention to this, because this is where the juiciness is. This is where the meat is. This is where the information and the impact is. So you could tell me that, you've got something happening like, okay, here's a popular one. Pluto goes over your Neptune. That happens to everyone at around age 25. Pluto goes over Neptune. It's the distance between Pluto and Neptune and the time it takes for Pluto to go over Neptune in our generation. And our generations, for many generations, for many years anyway, at least the last 100 years, as long as Pluto and Neptune have been within a 60-degree range of each other in the sky, usually by this time, you turn 25, you get Pluto going over your Neptune. And this is when the rose-colored glasses come off. However, we take our parents down from the pedestal, etc. However, everyone that you went to school with is having the same aspect. Everyone that's in your grade that you graduated with, they're having the same aspect. It's a generational aspect. And generational things are not necessarily personal. And so the impact of a generational thing is everybody's got their rose-colored glasses coming off, but they're not having it unless, okay, so now you've got the moon. Say, pretend you've got moon-Neptune conjunction. Well, when Pluto comes to that Neptune when you're 25, it's going to come to the moon. But it's not going to necessarily affect a personal planet unless there's an aspect, or it could be a smooth aspect or something. We don't give weight to the generational things as we do the personal things. So your whole group, your whole class has Pluto going over Neptune, and you all know what that's like, and it's a different area of the chart for everybody who's born with that year, and maybe a little bit before, a little bit after. But the important thing is, if there's no personal planet involved, or an angle, like if you've got Neptune on the ascendant or the IC, when that Pluto hits, it's hitting some very personal places. Especially the IC, it's hitting your, the whole family structure and stuff. And, your personal planets are the ones that are going to have the personal situation, meaning if there's a whole group, collective, unconscious situation going on, then everybody's getting Pluto to their Neptune or Pluto to their Saturn, everybody we went to school with, and everybody's having the same thing. It's not as impactful as Pluto to your Sun, Moon, Ascendant, Venus, Mars, Mercury. Okay? It's not as impactful. It's not, you could be having all sorts of Saturn, Pluto, Neptune things to each other. Oh, my Saturn's squaring my Saturn. Yeah, that's a generational thing too. It may feel somewhat personal, but it's not like having an outer planet hit one of the lights, the sun or the moon. And so, if you've got Pluto going to your sun, if you've got, Saturn going to your moon, something like this is not necessarily generational. And there's a profound impact of that. But it's not the same. We don't give the same weight to an outer planet going to an outer planet. Pluto going over your Neptune, Neptune going over your Pluto, Neptune going over your Uranus, something like this, Neptune going over Saturn. I once had Saturn going over my Jupiter and Jupiter going over my Saturn at the same time. The people in my generation had that. And it would just sort of highlighted and supported each other and, in my chart and in the experience of what else was going on. Uranus happened to be on my sun at the time. That was the real aspect. That's what it was. And we could say, oh, but Jupiter's on your Saturn, Saturn's on your Jupiter. Yeah, everybody born, around the same time as I am, they're going to get the same aspect. So that a lot of us are experiencing it. And why I'm saying this is when you are looking, if you look at your chart and if you come to me and get your astrology session with me, I'm going to pay particular attention to the outer planets to a personal planet. This is where the juice is. This is where what's happening is happening. This is where you're going to feel it in your gut and you're going to feel it in your soul and you're going to have the deepest changes. Those are the most important. But if it's only outer planets to outer planets, not going to have the impact as it would to a personal planet. So I wanted everybody to understand that. And if you don't know what that means, then please come and see me for an astrology session, and we can talk about how these things are affecting you. Most of the time when someone comes, I know that there is something profound going on for them that is deep and, they have questions about it. Like, what's happening to me? Oh, yeah, well, Uranus is on your moon. That's a big deal. So this is a big those are transitional, big time transitional aspects. They are big, life-changing things. We feel them deeply. So that's why those are the personal planets, Okay, that being said, if you are having Pluto to your sun or your moon right now and you felt this week is chaotic, well, sure. Yeah, that's because Pluto's stationed and it's stationing on your planet. And so therefore, when an outer planet stops, that is a profound vibration that you are getting to your chart. Today, I did a lecture in my garden here, one of the gardens we have here, the main garden. And my neighbor next door is a numerologist and an art therapist, and she she and I joined forces, and she talked about numerology and life path, and I talked about life path with the sun line in astrocartography. And we had a nice group of people, and they were very excited and had lots of questions. And we did 2 hours of talking in the garden, and it was beautiful. It was really nice, and we all sat around and had a very good conversation and lecture, and people asked good questions. It was thought provoking. People liked it. People want to come back to us. It's really great. So yes, it was a lot of fun, and I think that these little events are very educational for people. So I'm going to try to do more of them, and I've got to cook up some more online. I am going to work with the Internations group next Sunday, the 18th, and that is for we're going to talk about outer planet transits. And if you are part of internations.org, you can join my lecture. So we have an interesting full moon tomorrow, which is at 22 degrees of Scorpio. And that full moon occurs in the afternoon in the Eastern time zone of 12:56 p.m., almost 1 o'clock. And it's 22 degrees Scorpio, which then relates to 8 degrees of Cardinal. So if you've got something at 8 degrees Cardinal, which is Capricorn, Aries, Libra, and Cancer, then you are going to feel this full moon very intensely. If you've got something at 22 fixed, 23 fixed, then that would be Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Leo. And Scorpio, of course, is where the full moon is. Then you are going to feel this because 22 Taurus is where the sun is. So it's 22 Taurus is the sun, 22 Scorpio is the moon. They are in opposition. We have the full moon of the Taurus season, which is in Scorpio. So this is good. We know we're having a full moon. Scorpio is not the moon's favorite place, but it's passionate, it's intense, and it's powerful, and it's a great place to do some mystical work, healing work, deep diving and delving into unconscious patterns, transformational patterns. Anything that might come up and make you emotional right now is very powerful, and it means that you are transitioning, transforming on a deep level. So that's a really good time for this full moon for you to experience that and do that work. So the other aspect that's happening tomorrow is that Mercury, which is in Taurus, as we knew, it went in the other day, it squares Pluto in Aquarius. And so, Mercury went in, I think it was yesterday, and they are very early in Taurus and Aquarius, so they are squaring one another, which is a challenging aspect. And Pluto rules the full moon because it's in Scorpio, Pluto's sign. So this is particularly potent, and if you are going to do some deep healing work with that Scorpio moon, and you're going to see your healer, or you're going to do a deep meditation, or you're focusing your energy and intention, this is really good because it lends itself to the communication style of Mercury. So Mercury in Taurus is a little pokier. It's quieter. It's not Mercury in Gemini. But this is a very potent square to have while part of that square is in, the full moon rulership. So, and here's an example of an outer planet hitting a personal planet. It's Mercury. It's the planet of communication, thought, speaking, writing, lecturing, traveling locally, networking. Yeah. So this is something thought-provoking for tomorrow as we experience the full moon and the two planets are squaring each other half an hour later. So there's a moment in the middle of tomorrow that's going to be maybe a bit intense and asking for our attention and our conscious thought. So it's something you want to pay attention to. It's something you want to pay attention to tomorrow. And then another thing that's happening this week that's important that I am so glad to finally see is that Venus is coming out of her shadow. Yay! This is it. This is the last of the planets that were retrograde coming out of that phase. And so Venus is coming out of her shadow Thursday the 15th, and it is a very potent release of that Venus energy. Remember, she passed over Saturn 3 times. She passed over Neptune 3 times. She was retrograde from March 1st until a month ago, really, mid-April. And then she turned around and did the Saturn thing again. She stayed with Saturn all of April. That was, complicated. We had to work through that. We had to navigate that. We're finally being freed of this on Thursday after all these weeks and months. So it's one of those things where you say, God, it feels like yesterday, and God, it feels like forever ago. And I think that was the case with this Venus and all these retrogrades. I remember just being in the thick of it at the end of February, the beginning of March, and how complicated it all was. When we made that transition, when Mars went direct, and there was only a few days, and Venus was already stationing and going retrograde. So this was hard. I think it was too much all at the same time. And maybe because all of this energy is shaking out finally, this is why it's been chaotic. Mars finally is free. It's like a wild animal that's been caged for 6 months and then finally is allowed to step out. Maybe that's part of the chaos that I was feeling this week. And we really do want to pay attention to what Venus may have to say to us this week. So what does the goddess have to say? Beauty, art, love, relationships, money. Where is it that she is stepping free of this and she's going forward in a way that she hasn't before? She's still treading over places she's been. She's still going, up until Thursday, she's still going over places that she was when she went retrograde. So the places she passed over a few times. So the lessons are coming out, the lessons are bubbling up, we're learning them, we're releasing them, we're moving forward. But this is the last one because Mercury went a while ago, Mars went last week, and we are stepping out with Venus now. So this is great. This is great, and I have very good feeling, and I'm excited about it. And so we're going to process all of this, and anything that we've been dealing with in these months, anything that was particularly powerful or potent, this is the time to really recognize that and acknowledge it. What's been going on in your relationships with people? Did you feel like you were being held back in many ways? A lot of times we felt like that. We couldn't express our feelings properly, whether it's romantically or however. We couldn't express our feelings because of all this retrograde energy. We needed to tell people how we felt. Maybe we wanted to tell someone we loved them and it just wasn't the right time, and maybe now will be. So it could be that, or maybe someone wants to tell you they love you. So this is good. Any work we've been doing on ourselves, we're going to notice some shifts and changes, and a lot of that we're always processing. You do deep work on yourself, you do healing work, you process for a long time, and then you come out of it and you're like, wow, it feels like it accelerated right out of where it was. And that can easily happen this week with Venus getting out of her shadow. So very, very good news. Very good news. Finally, that means we're out of it. We are out of it. Yes, Pluto went retrograde, but does this for 6 months every year. It's not every year that Venus goes retrograde. It's every year and a half. And so all of last year, Venus did not go retrograde. Neither did Mars. And then they hit us all at once. So this has been, Mars went retrograde in the last weeks of the year last year. But, they're hitting us all at once. They hit us all at once. It was deep work. So congratulate yourself. Give yourself a pat on the back. You got through it. Hopefully you learned some deep things. You moved forward. You released old patterns, old things, and you got to step into the light now. The other thing that's happening this week is our beautiful sun, which is in Taurus right now. And this is the last full week of the sun in Taurus. Because next week, when we get to, I guess it's Tuesday, we have the sun entering Gemini on the 20th of May. So that's really a powerful shift forward, because later this year we're going to start seeing Uranus shift out of Taurus into Gemini. So this might be a little bit of a taster of, that Gemini energy that we experience every year. But the sun and Uranus are meeting on Saturday the 17th. at this end of Taurus. And so I believe that once it goes into Gemini this later this year, in a few months, once Uranus goes into Gemini, it's not going back into Taurus so far that the sun will conjunct it in Taurus again. Meaning, it's going to go into Gemini. It's going to stay in Gemini for a few months. It's going to retrograde back into Taurus and then go back into Gemini next year to stay. This is the last time the sun and Uranus will meet in the sign of Taurus. Now, this is a big deal because it's been 7 years since this has been happening, that the sun has met with Uranus and Taurus. And we're ending our experience of Uranus and Taurus. I found this profoundly interesting because here it is. I feel like a minute ago, Uranus went into Taurus, and we're like, what's Uranus and Taurus going to be like? What's that all about? It feels like it just went into Aries, but that was a long, long time ago. But Taurus, it went in 2018. And so this 7.5 year experience of Uranus and Taurus has been a profound review of how we look at money, all the Taurian things, all the securities, all the feelings of being safe, all the feeling of not wanting things to change and not be shaken up. You know, we want things to, in the Taurus area of our chart, we want things to sort of stay stable and steady, and Uranus there does not provide that. And sometimes, you know, we have to take what we get with Uranus and say, okay, I'm along for the roller coaster ride and I've got to do it. I got on this roller coaster, okay. But it's Uranus's energy is surprising. You know, if you expected something stable in your Taurus house, like you've been doing it for years. I know my job really well. I've been doing it for years. I know my neighborhood really well. I've been doing this for years, pulling in my car into my car park every day for years. And then Uranus comes along and shakes it all up. Okay, you're moving offices. Okay, your job is changing. Okay, we're job discontinuing you. All right, so you're getting a promotion and it's a whole other ball game. You know, it's could be up or down, out or in, deeper in or completely out. That's the nature of what Uranus will do. It will not keep things the same. It might turn up the volume on what's already there, or it might make it like crickets. There's nothing going on there. It's important, you know, to think about what you've been experiencing these last 7 years. What was it like for you? How did it change that area of your life? The slow and steady area of your life. That's a profound planet to come through there. Taurus people, and I know my Tauruses, they don't really like things to change. They are as grounded as rock. They want things to be stable, and they're good people to have in your life for stability. So this is a really interesting passage, because as it's finishing up, as Uranus is finishing up and it goes into wacky wild Gemini, they are so much more probably akin to the Gemini Uranian vibe. You know, the Gemini getting Uranus is going to be like wild and electric and bizarre ideas and lots of technology moving really quickly. It's a little more fluid in the sign of Gemini. That doesn't mean it won't shake up your Gemini house. It's just that your Gemini house is more fluid for you. That might be somebody else's Taurus house. You know, maybe you've got Gemini in the 11th. You're like, yeah, I want to meet new people. I want new refreshing goals. I want new community groups. You know, Uranus coming in there could really spark the lightning there, for example. But it's where we're already more fluid than we are in our Taurus house. Okay, so getting the Gemini energy up and going with Uranus won't be the shocker that it was with Uranus going into Taurus. You know, Uranus in Gemini is not going to be the same. So this experience, I don't expect it to be less Uranian, but I expect it to be, I expect us to be more willing to allow things to flow and get shaken up in that house, because Gemini already is more fluid. So that's what I'm saying. So this is the last passage of the sun over Uranus in the sign of Taurus. This is the last time we'll feel this in our lifetime because it takes 84 years for Uranus to go around the zodiac. So unless someone out there is very young and going to live to be, 100, which is very possible. I'm sure there are people out there who are very young and going to live to be 100. So, yes. Life is short. Life is short. And we have to not get stuck in our ways. And I think that if I felt anything with Uranus and Taurus, I felt where I could be stuck, or I watched people get stuck and I felt that they were being forced to move forward. Life's short. We can't hold on that tightly. We have to be fluid and let things go. And we have to let go of the old patterns. We have to let go of the old grievances. We have to forgive people and move on. And we have to get past ourselves, because before you know it, it's happening. Like it's another decade of your life. So it's so important to keep moving and to stay in flow and not stay in the same old place all the time. Mercury is squaring Mars Saturday the 17th or Sunday the 18th, depending on where you live. And that's another, it's squaring Pluto tomorrow. So Pluto and Mars were opposite each other. And now it's going to get to the other half of that opposition next week because Mars is faster and it's moved faster. So Mercury and Mars together are, they shake things up. They're going to say things that maybe they can't take back. Think before you speak, please, this week. Think before you speak. At one end of the week, we have Mercury square Pluto. At the other end of the week, we have Mercury square Mars. The Mars is the one that could be more vocal and loud, and vocal and maybe not so nice. Okay, so we want to just think before we speak. And tomorrow is more about doing some deep work. So do the deep work. Connect with the depth of your life and your experience of your life, and just allow yourself to go deep with yourself tomorrow, and private and quietly, okay, so that you feel like you're achieving something that can give you a revelation, an epiphany tomorrow. We like that. And the sun Uranus, that could be an epiphany as well. So we've got some provoking aspects to bring about epiphanies, and perhaps also that the sun Uranus is really coming on the heels of Venus getting out of the shadow, is that we realize where we've been all these months, and we realize what we worked on all of these months and how that affected us, and what we learned in the process, and who we are now versus who we were a few months ago. I can't believe it's all finally come to an end, and we are finally moving forward after this challenging time of navigating all those retrogrades. If you want to sit with me and discuss all of this, and you want to find out what's coming up as Saturn gets ready to join Neptune in Aries, then I suggest you book a session with me, and you can just go to my website, thegoldenastrologer.com, and click on book online, and you can book a session with me to do astrology and look at your astrology. Also, I do a 5D Lemurian Reiki, which is beautiful and wonderful, and I invite you to learn the Reiki with me. I do 3 levels of certification. You can teach after that. You can initiate people after that. And you can learn the Reiki from me, or you can have a Reiki session with me, because it's really beautiful and lovely. So it's really a beautiful, interesting, different, and simple, straightforward, but powerful system. And you don't have to do the Reiki certification and then see 20 people. You're done. Once you've sat with me for 2 hours and we went through the whole process and I initiate you, then you move on to level 2, level 3. But you don't have to count up the clients in order to get your certification certified, right? So you just finish up your Reiki and start working on people, and start working on yourself, and it can really change things in your life, and it feels like you have a lot of power over your life when you use this system. You can change things, you can Reiki anything you can do. You can solve it with Reiki. A lot of things work that way. It works very beautifully, very easily, so I highly recommend it. And I'm also available for New Vision sessions, and I'm available for expansion mentoring, 3 months 6 months, 12 months. That's a longer period of time with me. And we go into the deeper patterns in your life and clear them out with all of my tools, the NLP tools. I use some astrology, some Reiki, but maybe a little new vision, but mostly all of these quantum integration tools I've learned in my certification. So I welcome you to connect with me for that as well. And if you're interested in learning more about that, you can email me info@thegoldenastrologer.com or deb@debmcbride.com. And I'm also on Instagram, The Golden Astrologer. So you can find me in lots of places. How's Pluto treating you? How is Pluto retrograde treating you? Let me know. I'd love to hear from people. So thank you so much for listening. Blessings to everyone. Gratitude to everyone. And I will see you on the internet and on this podcast next week.